Fight Club. As you can tell if you read the title, I'm Chuckless again. Very sad. I miss you, Chucky. But I talked my beautiful wife into coming on with me again, so I'd at least have somebody to talk to instead of just talking to myself for a little bit. So we wanted to release something, so I had a couple ideas, so I thought, why not? Let's get it. And she agreed because she's so great. How are you doing, sweetie?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, we had a fun night last night.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, do you want to tell the story? Or should I?
You should probably.
Okay. We were hanging out. We'd just done a service project in our neighborhood, and we were over in a parking lot behind our church, and there was a little western screech owl that somebody had found that was sitting on the edge, and I hadn't seen that species yet, so I was pretty excited. So that was a new species for me and you, right? You haven't seen a western screech owl. So I was excited to see it, and then it just kind of sat there. It couldn't fly, and it looked like an adult. It had like all its feathers and everything, and so I'm like, that's not good. So these kids were there, and they were like petting it with a stick, so they wouldn't get it. And he was kind of clicking his beak, like clacking his beak. Did you hear him do that?
No.
It's kind of an interesting like threat display or something, but yeah, it's kind of like back off. So anyway, he ducked under the fence into one of the neighbors' yards. And so I went home and I got a Rubbermaid container, and I went over to the neighbors, and he was in his garage, and he's like, I'm like, you've got an owl in your backyard? And he's like, no, I've got some chickens, but I don't have any owls. I'm like, no, I saw an owl go into your backyard. I think it's injured. I want to, take it into, a rescue. And so he's like, sure. So he went out there and helped me kind of herd it into the Rubbermaid. It kind of flew a little bit, but it stayed low, and it didn't fly very far. And it looked like it had been chewed on by something or was injured in some way. So we got it into the Rubbermaid, and I took it over home and put it in the reptile room for a bit. And I there's a vet at the university, Arnaud Van Wettery, and he's a falconer, so he knows lots about birds and especially raptors. So I texted him. I'm like, I've got another bird, because I caught a red-tailed hawk that was injured a while back. Man, that thing was that was amazing. Yeah. And it was much bigger bird. I mean, the screech owls are pretty small. This thing was big and powerful, like surprisingly powerful. Like I kind of used a blanket to kind of throw the blanket over the bird, and then grabbed it, and like he almost got his talons into my hand, and I felt the strength just kind of brushing. I'm like, holy crap, that would not have felt good. So yeah. Anyway, so he helped me through that one, and I took it down to a rescue in Ogden, which is about an hour or a little bit more south of us. And so I'm like, oh man, I was thinking, well, maybe I can take the owl to the rescue in the morning and drop Heidi off at work and then drive down there. But I had a call with the NIH, so I'm like, how am I going to do this? Maybe I can take the call from the road. But anyway, I was talking to another friend, told him, hey, we found an owl. It's kind of cool. And he's like, hey, there's a rescue in town or close to town. And so it was only a 20-minute drive. And so I thought, oh, that's much better. And then I contacted the lady that was in charge of it, and she's like, oh, we take drop-offs 24 hours a day. And I'm like, okay, we'll drive up there tonight. So Heidi and I and one of our daughters drove up to Preston, Idaho, which is about 25-minute drive north of us. And we were about a mile away from the rescue, and we got a flat tire. So we're on the side of the road changing the tire on the Prius, and
like at 11 at night.
Yeah, 11 at night, and we were in front of some person's house, and they came out, but I contacted the rescue, and I said, well, we're not going to be there when we said, because we got a flat tire. And she's like, oh, we'll come meet you. So they came out and picked up the owl, helped me change the tire. So it was, nice of them. So for some reason the tire wouldn't come off, so it was like stuck. We had to kind of pry it off. I think it was just really hot or something. The metal was sticking together for some reason. But so we dropped off the owl, we got the tire changed, and then we headed back home. And we got home about 12:15 or something. So
oh, was it that late?
It was a little bit of a late night, yeah. So
It was so cool, though.
But it was amazing. That thing was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful bird.
I thought it was like a juvenile because it was so small, but you think that's full grown.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
We've
it
seen,
was really little.
We saw the one that they had. We went to a museum and they had an adult and it was on a guy's arm. And yeah, it was a pretty so small owl. Yeah. So beautiful yellow eyes. And I learned, I don't know if this is true. I need to verify this, but like more diurnal owls have yellow eyes, whereas like the nocturnal owls have the darker eyes. So I think it might be partially diurnal, the screech owls. I don't know, but it's just what I heard. Little tidbit, little factoid.
Just in case you're wondering. Have you ever seen an owl with
the more orange eyes are like more nocturnal. Anyway, thought that was interesting. So yeah, we got to play with an owl yesterday, so that was fun.
Because how long would it take you? You have to be a falconer first.
Oh yeah.
Before you can have owls.
You have to apprentice with somebody. And
do you have to be the falcon thing first and then owls, or can you just do owls?
I think you have to start with like either a red-tailed hawk or a sparrowhawk, a kestrel. Okay. And once you get those down, then you can branch into other things. There are some species that aren't regulated by that. So like that eagle owl that pet store had.
That's what I want.
You can get an eagle owl without being a falconer, I think. I think technically it kind of goes outside. As long as it's not a native species, I think it's not regulated, but I don't know. I
think that would
it's probably better to
you can build a cool enclosure.
Oh yeah. That would be an amazing thing. Fun. But I would feel bad keeping such a big, bird in a cage, but
unless you found one that was a rescue that couldn't
That's true. If it couldn't fly or something like that.
I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah. And those are probably captive bred. I don't know that they're importing eagle owls. I doubt it, but I don't know. I don't know birds. Birds are a little more high maintenance. But yeah, while it was at the house, I'm like, hey, I asked my friend, should I give it a mouse? And he's like, yeah, go for it. He said, maybe open it up so it can see the liver and some of the organs and stuff. So I kind of opened it up and I kind of put it in front of it and it grabbed it with its beak. So I just kind of backed away slowly and left. I kind of wish I would have watched it because it ended up eating it. So it did get a meal. So hopefully that helped it along its way to recovery. But they said that those birds rehab really well. So western screech owls do good. Yeah. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I was tired. I'm tired today. But not as tired as Chuck. He's just getting raked over the coals. It's pretty miserable for him right now. So he said, I've got a headache. I'm going to eat some Tylenol and go to bed. So he's out for the count. Poor Chuck. We miss you, buddy.
Chuck.
Yeah.
We miss you.
We'll record something to get out. So anyway, I guess let's see what else we got going on. We've got one or two more clutches in the incubator, just one more snake clutch, and then a couple gecko eggs. So some wheeler eye eggs, and then some centralian python brettle. Brettle eye. I like to say brettle eye. I don't know.
I do too. I think brettle eye sounds better.
I mean, it's proper to say brettle eye, but not so proper. Just kidding. We like scientific pronunciation, but it's a dead language, so who cares, right?
I don't like that.
I just think brettle eye sounds better, but yeah. So anyway, I've got a clutch of hypo brettle eye in the incubator, so I'm excited for those. That'll be these are the first hypos I've hatched out. So
how much longer do you think?
They've probably got another month or so, maybe a little less, maybe half a month. I kind of want them to take their time because I'm running out of room. I think I can squeeze them in, but it's going to be a squeeze. It's a good thing I've got a reptile show coming up, so I can hopefully move some animals. But the jungles are eating. I think I've got all of them except for maybe two. And of course, my favorite one out of the clutch is not eating. It's a zebra jungle that is striped. So it's like really pinstripey, really interesting looking. So I'm really curious to see how it grows up. And then the inlands, I got one inland feeding. I started feeding trials and one took last week. Yeah. So I've got a little ways to go with the inlands. I'm so torn because I want to see them develop and gain their colors. I was looking at an old picture popped up on, I don't know, maybe social media or on my phone or something, and it was of an inland that I sold, and I was looking at it going, how did I sell that? It was so gorgeous. I'm like, what am I doing selling these things? So I kind of want to hold on to at least a small group of them because these are some of my first selectively bred Like my holdbacks, the offspring of my holdbacks. So I kind of want to keep them around. And then I was looking at one of the inlands that I didn't breed this year, and I'm like, man, why didn't I breed this girl? She looks phenomenal. She just looks so good. So I'm really excited for the inlands. And I think, there's other people out there maybe that are excited too. I know at least a couple of you guys listening are excited for these. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get them eating and ready to go soon. I kind of want to hold on to the jungles too, to watch them color up. I love watching jungles color up. The blackheads, I'm going to probably just resort to assist feeding those. They're getting a little thin, and they didn't hatch out with a lot of, a lot of blackheads hatch out really fat, like with a lot of, like their yolk or reserves or something. These guys didn't. I think my incubation, I need to figure something out there. Talk to a bunch of people, but so I'm still trying to figure that out, how to get a better hatch rate and get these things going. But I think I'm going to have to assist feed this week, the blackheads. I tried last week, but I think I was using too large of an item. I thought maybe if I got the front part of it in, maybe they'd just finish it, but no, I spit it right out. So
do you ever do like a liquid diet or like something like that just to get the nutrients?
It's a lot easier because you can just kind of get them the nutrients, the strength. I need strength and nutrients. We love Nacho in this family. Nacho. But yeah, so assist feeding. I think that's what most black-headed breeders do, is they start out with assist feeding. So yeah. Then the womas, or the pair of womas that I got were solid, and they're probably ready to go here soon. I think I've got a buyer for him. I need to check with him, see if he wants them. I sent him pictures and he said thanks, but he didn't say I'll take them, or I'll send you money. So we'll see how that goes. And then I've got a few other odds and ends. So yeah. But yeah, good season. I'm happy. Got a lot of good stuff out there. Oh man, another clutch of Western Stimsons hatch, some wheat belts, and this is another holdback pair of stripes, and there's one in there that's just crazy striped and really neat patterned, and they're kind of varying degrees of striping, and so I'm excited about that clutch. So I don't know, man, people are missing the boat on the wheat belt Stimsons. They're just so cool. They're amazing.
Great size.
And I've got a few of them, so need to slow down. I guess they've just done so well here, and I feel bad because they're not very, there's not many people breeding them. I know there's a few people that produced them this year, so that's good. I know Casey Lazick did, and William Philippek did, and a couple others. So there's some other people out there producing, which is good because I want them to be established in the hobby. We've produced hundreds of them here. They've done really well for us, and speaking of the Westerns, that's kind of the part of the idea that I had for today's discussion. So Chuck and I were going to record, and then he was not feeling up to it. So I had a topic, but I think we'll save that for later. So today's going to be more of just like a discussion rather than a fight. We're not going to flip the coin. Well, maybe we could flip the coin just for fun.
Okay.
Do you want to call it? Yeah. Then we'll talk about the two. It's tails. You're 100%, aren't you? Haven't you won?
I honestly don't remember.
I think you beat me every time on the coin flip. You're good. You got the luck of the Chuck.
I'm going to Vegas.
The luck of the Chuck.
The luck of the Chuck.
Don't go to Vegas.
No. Go to Idaho, put a lottery ticket. It's closer.
So I was listening to the wonderful Podfather and the Mac and Wookie discuss, or they were interviewing William Philippek. I was just going to
do a chewy noise, but I'm glad I didn't do
Give
that.
us your best chewy noise.
No.
Go on. No. He was upset that you kind of took a dig at him last time. I don't remember you taking a dig. We'll have to go back and listen to the tapes.
No, it doesn't sound like me.
I know, man. I'm
sure it wasn't me.
So he said he's always listening sometimes. So I thought that was pretty funny.
I'm extending an olive branch.
Well, we love you, Owen.
Let's be friends.
He's getting married soon. Oh. It's getting close. Yeah. And one of our Aussie friends, Luke, his wife's having a baby.
Aww.
So, congrats to you if if the baby's on the ground, if you've got a little hatchling or newborn. I know we need grandkids.
Chris's kids.
Yeah, cuppers.
Yep. Someday we'll have grandkids.
We miss our Aussie friends. We need to get back there, don't we?
Yeah, a couple of years.
That's there. Right. We're coming in a couple of years, so prepare yourselves, Aussies.
If not sooner for
the invasion of the youngest Jewlander children and their parents. Should be fun. So you won the coin toss.
Okay.
What do you want to do? What do you want to win?
Oh, this is that. Okay.
Oh wait, no, never mind. Never mind.
Well, I would say
I shouldn't have opened that door. The mixer, holy cow! Yeah. I thought you were gonna get it.
It's like a Nutrimeal knockoff.
Didn't you get some money or something?
I got clothes.
Oh, you got clothes instead. Hey, you had your chance. Yeah.
But clothes are technically like a budget item, so we could.
I'm talking like $5 and under here. Not a mixer. Come
on. I'll take a 12-pack of Diet Coke.
Okay.
And
Owen's
I'm not done.
Oh. Okay.
Then I want
12 packs
a
more
thing
than
of
$5.
red vines, the ropes in the pack.
Okay.
And then. Yeah.
Don't lose the coin toss, folks. This is what happens.
That's part one.
Okay, you can tell me part two later. The show is only a short one tonight. So, yeah. What was I saying? We do love the Mac and Wookie. He's a good man. And best of luck to you in your ventures, in your wedding ventures. Yep. Wish we could be there, but we weren't invited, so. He doesn't care about us that much.
That's why.
Oh, that's right. We're talking smack on him in the Reptile Fight Club. Hey, if you can't handle the fight,
bad feelings.
Don't be the Mac and Wookie. No, Owen's a great guy.
That's about the funnest time in life.
Yep. Yeah. We reflect on those days fondly. Good times.
Good times.
We're excited for you, buddy. Good luck to you. So anyway, I was listening to the Podfather and the Mac and Wookie interview William Philippek of TWJ. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't remember your work, your business name. William Philippek, cool guy. I met him at Tinley a couple of years ago. Really cool guy. So. But he was talking to Eric and Owen, talking about Western Stimsons and his ratios in his like gender ratios. So he gets clutches of like mostly males.
Oh.
And he was looking at like several clutches have been mostly males of Antaresia. And like I've had a couple of Western Stim clutches that were fairly male high, but overall it's kind of all balanced out, and I have a pretty even sex ratio. So even males and female numbers overall, over several clutches. So I'm not sure what's going on, but he mentioned that he measured some of his egg box container temperatures, and they were like up in the 90s. And typically we incubate our python eggs usually around 89, 88. And so I think my incubator is actually a little low, 80, 87 in the egg boxes, at least on some of the shelves. So I haven't sexed my hatchlings this year, but in previous year, and especially with the pygmy pythons, I'm usually way female heavy in those clutches. So yeah, I don't know, but I do have some data from I inserted a temp probe into a clutch while the female is laying the egg, so the temperature probe just got kind of incorporated into the clutch with pygmy python, and while she was incubating, the clutch like routinely got up above 90, like up to 92 degrees. Right. And we put this graph in the complete children's python book. Shameless plug. And but yeah, it's pretty the temperatures spiked pretty higher than I expected them to. And so she had a wide range of choices in her enclosure of where she could have incubated the eggs. But yeah, she chose a spot where they got pretty hot.
And they never move once they coil.
No, they can move them. Yeah, they can kind of inch over and move the clutch with them. Yeah, there's been some people that have. I think Nick was telling a story once where he thought they should have been in a nest box, and so he moved them over towards the nest box, and then they moved back or something like that. Maybe I'm misremembering, but kind of a cool thing.
That's interesting. So I mean, it could be anywhere between like 10 degrees higher than where you're at.
Yeah.
And your incubators.
Well, let's crack open the book. Let's refresh our memories there. It's the greenish one next to the first edition of the Complete Carpet. Yeah, I speaking of the Complete Carpet, I emailed Bob asking about the new book, and I haven't heard back from him, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get some advanced copies soon, and then the rest of the copies will follow shortly after that. But we might still be a month out or something.
Well, I was going to ask you isn't that a thing with like turtles? Like
temperature, sex, determination. You like turtles? I
like turtles. But that's what.
So yeah, their sex is determined by their temperature that they incubate
and it's
at.
Just random. Because don't they just leave the eggs?
Well,
and go. They don't sit on them.
I think I saw a page. So I think one of the things that got me thinking about this topic or this idea was I'm reading Dr. Richard Schein's new book, So Many Snakes, So Little Time. Really just a fun book. It's basically him talking about all his early career and starting out in the research and things like that. So it was really it's really been a great book, telling stories of like near misses with snakes and things like that. So it's really an exciting book, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm about 100 pages in, so hopefully the Morelia Python radio folks invite me to be on that book club review or whatever. But
that's fun.
So
Is that why you're reading it? Because it's a book club, or
no? I just bought it and I'm reading it. So it's a really cool book. But yeah, so okay, so the max temperature they got was about 91 degrees.
91. What's the lowest?
And they went down to like 87. Okay. So, but they spent most of their time probably above 90, like for the most part. And this is over 1,200 hours of incubation.
It'd be interesting to see too, like where those periods where it dips down, like maybe they were moving, or maybe do they ever get up and get a drink of water or something? Where
sometimes the females can leave the clutch.
And then come back.
Yeah, because there's only like three dips, but it could also be the ambient temperature of the room drop too, because our old room was a little less it was pretty thermally stable, but it would get cold in the winter, and but these would be more in the spring, although they laid them pretty early in the year. So anyway, I was reading the book and thinking about science and thinking about how, maybe to run a study. And then when I heard William talking about, the sex ratios of the Antaresia clutches and how he noticed maybe they were at higher temperatures. And I seem to remember that higher temperatures usually correspond with female sex, but I know that there is differing, so how do I put this? Like sex gametes or chromosomes that bear the sex genes are different between different reptile groups. So like some are like us, where the female is the homo, what's the name? The
Zygous?
Homozygous for the Y, right? Or X. X. Double X. And then males are XY. And so we're called the heterogametic, and you guys are the homogametic. So women are homogametic, males are heterogametic. Gametic.
Good to know.
Gametes. Gametic. Bredeli. So anyway, that could be different with like turtles. And so in turtles and crocodilians, if it's higher temperatures, I believe they turn female. And maybe it's like there's like two phases. Maybe it's the high temperature and the very low no, it's the high temperature that are males, and I think low temperatures are also males, and then the kind of intermediate are females. I should have looked this up, I guess, before we start recording. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes, because they're worried with rising temperatures that it's going to be all male sea turtles out there, like trying to find a female. So there'll be fewer females. But there was some indication that the embryos had a certain amount of control over whether they become males or females. I was reading a Rick Shine paper on his website that had some discussion of how the embryo can maybe influence that. I don't know. I need to, again, I should have done a little research for this topic.
Because, that's interesting.
So yeah. And so like, we know that certain species have TSD, temperature, sex determination, and others don't, like, and as far as we know, pythons don't have that. So if this is the case, that, higher temperature means that you're getting a higher ratio of males in the clutch, then that could be an interesting scientific breakthrough. Yeah. So, hearing William talk about that made me think, okay, so I know he got at least some of his Westerns from me. I think he got all of his Westerns from me, as far as I know. I know he bought both lines of Westerns. And so, why are his heavy male and mine aren't? Mine are kind of more equal. Yeah. Maybe I'm incubating in a lower temperature, and his are getting hotter in the nest boxes that he's using, the incubation boxes that he's using. So it got me thinking, like, how would you demonstrate that? How would you prove that? And so I thought, well, maybe let's talk about how to design, have a hypothesis and prove the hypothesis with an experiment. Because if one, I think Dr. Shine talks about this in his book as well, is that the importance of, hobbyist scientists or citizen science. Citizen science is kind of what they refer to that as, and how important citizen science can be to science in general, because we've got, and he would talk to different keepers. I just started the chapter where he starts talking about pythons, and he was talking about how if he had a question about pythons, he'd go to people who he knew kept pythons, because there were a lot of reptile keepers in Sydney, because they would find a diamond python and, it's a beautiful snake, it's really easygoing, and so they'd put it in a cage in their living room or something. And so a lot of people were keeping diamond pythons until the Australian government said, no, they're rare, we're going to make this illegal. And so they stopped allowing people to collect. So sometime between the 70s and 80s or something like that, or maybe the 90s. And so, but he would go to his friends that were more hobbyists, that just kind of kept reptiles as a hobby. So I like that idea of scientists working with hobbyists, because all too commonly there's this division between hobbyists and zookeepers, or hobbyists and scientists, or scientists and zookeepers. I've heard of a few kind of rifts there as well. And so, if we do a lot better overall, I think, if we work together. Yeah. I mean, collaboration is always better, right?
And also too, like, to realize that just because you see something with your animals doesn't mean that that's necessarily like the rule. Yeah. About something. You have to be able to look at it subjectively and say, okay, like, am I like, I can't just come and make a claim that this is how it is for this species all the time, because this is what I observed, because you don't know if you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think that to William's credit, when he was on the podcast, he was saying that he's like, I need to talk to Justin about this, because this is just what I'm observing. And he didn't say, I think, when you keep Antaresia, they're all going to be males, it's because we inbreed them, or it's because this or that. He didn't give a reason. He maybe gave some possibilities, but he never said, this is why, which is really admirable, because a lot of times in herpetoculture, we get these myths, or like these long-standing traditions of this is how it is, because, and it happens in science too. I know that, part of that, again, going back to the Shine book, he was saying that they didn't know certain species laid eggs. They just assumed they were live bearers because other members of the genus also, had live babies, and so they just assumed they were. And then they wrote that into the books, like, this species is most probably a live bearer, and then it became this species of the live bearer, and then Dr. Shine went back and looked at all these preserved specimens across all different groups, and he said there's probably not a species that he hasn't looked at in a jar, in the various Australian museums, and found out that certain species weren't live bearers like it was thought, and they did lay eggs. So he could show that through these preserved specimens, and he learned a lot of interesting natural history just by looking at preserved specimens. Yeah. That was one thing that kind of kept me away from herpetology, is thinking, I don't want to pickle these things, but I guess there's a lot of value. And he even got good at identifying different things inside of animals that had been hit by cars and sat on a hot road and were partially decomposed when they were fixed in formalin. So even those had some value, but yeah, I guess we can learn stuff even in bad situations like road kills. But so anyway, I thought I'd talk about like what you need to demonstrate something, because like we just discussed there, you can't just say I observed this, so this is fact, because there's variables that go into that. Yeah. And one of the variables that William mentioned was temperature. And so if you wanted to prove this, you could say, okay, I have the hypothesis that there is temperature sex determination in pythons. And so how do you determine that? And so I guess I would suggest, and this is something that we could all work together to test, to prove.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
And it wouldn't require too much of an investment, So what you would need is probably a very stable incubator that you could set the temperature to, and you'd need some temperature probes to monitor the temperature of your incubation chamber that has the eggs in it, as well as your incubator, and then just set your temperatures to different thermal regimens, and see what happens.
And do the thermometers keep track over time? Like, how do they record?
Some can, yeah. Some can like keep the maximum and minimum temperatures that they've experienced over a long period of time. Or you could just measure, come down at certain times of the day and monitor the temperature, or have one of those on. I mean, you can get
a grill. You can get temperature thermometer set that will, like a wireless thermometer that will graph for you. Yeah,
there's these little devices called Govee. I've got a couple out in some of my cages out in the reptile room. I just thought of those. Those would be easy too, because they're like $15. They're like the size of an egg. You just put them in the incubation chamber, and then it will track the temperature over time.
That in order to have the experiment be like more pure, would everyone who did it have to have the same equipment?
I mean, that would help, but I don't think it's
at least the same
necessary.
Temperature.
So as long as you can, have something that's fairly stable, and you can show that your temperatures were within a certain range, and then show that you had two separate thermal regimes, then you could kind of gather evidence. And so that's part of this, right? What we need is a high, what's called an N, or the number of animals or test subjects or whatever is your N. And the more test subjects you have, the more confident you can be in your data. Yeah. And so if you have, if you get 70, 80 eggs in a season, and you take half of each clutch, because there could be some variability between clutches. And so you need to say, okay, I'm going to compare from the same clutch eggs at one temperature versus another temperature, because if you have like one clutch in one temperature and another clutch at another temperature, then you're somewhat comparing apples to oranges. Whereas if you take eggs from the same clutch, and then you'd also need to very carefully have the same sized containers, the same ratio of water to vermiculite or whatever you're using as your substrate. And so everything is kept the same. So that's that kind of standard or across the board. And so if you had 80 eggs divided between, two different temperatures, 40 is a pretty good N.
Is that pretty reliable? Like, because, wouldn't you want to have as many test subject or ends, whatever, as possible?
Yeah, that's right. And so, if you had 300, then that would make a stronger case than 80 would. And of course,
and also the more people you have that can reproduce the same results, that strengthens your
reproducibility is very critical in this regard. And so, like, I guess we could use my case and William's case where he sees a high male ratio and I don't. Then we can say, okay, what's the difference between us two? But if we both conducted the same experiment and got completely different results, then that would maybe be a little harder to explain, But if we had a pretty well controlled experiment where we used the same size containers and same thermal regimen, settings, then that would help to have those two different data sets.
Do you have to monitor that? Do you have like a because there could be some other things.
Exactly. He's out I think he's Ohio or somewhere out in the where it's more humid and
so
different.
Maybe just in general,
and out here it's really dry. It could be not a temperature thing, but a moisture thing. It's hard to say.
There's nothing wrong with starting the experiment saying we think it's because of temperature. Come to find out it's because of
hydration.
The tilt of the earth where you live or something.
And so that's a good point is, you want to have a hypothesis that you can say, yes, there's evidence to support this, or no, there's not evidence to support this. So if you say, my hypothesis is that different temperatures, higher temperatures influence a different sex ratio than a lower temperature, then you can test that and do a higher versus lower temperature and see if you have differences in your sex ratio in the end. Now, Antaresia are good because you can, they breed fairly early. You can get quite a few eggs from them. I mean, I've seen clutches up to 10, 15, 20 eggs, in some instances. And they're smaller, so you can probably fit more clutches in an incubator and even get a smaller incubator to test it sometimes. So, it could be done. But then if you
boost your numbers just to have an experiment, then are you like irresponsibly breeding more snakes than you can take care of?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously you need and in science, like
people do that instead of you boosting up your numbers. It's like, okay, who has this animal and who would care to be in the.
That's another great reason to crowdsource, right? So you don't have to produce 300 eggs. You can produce 40 eggs and still get, add your N to somebody else's N that has, the same temperature. So it does require a little bit of cooperation and a little bit of planning and a little bit of, coordination between different people, but it can be done and it's pretty easy. I mean, I think I've hatched out 39 Antaresia this year.
Wow.
And I had I didn't hit on the spotted pythons or the pygmy pythons or children's pythons. I think it's all western and eastern Stimson's pythons, so which are now children's pythons apparently. Not that I agree with that, but
all children's. Complete children's.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
So keep in mind, keep it something you can test. Keep it simple. So like have two variables, two things that are different, but everything else try to keep exactly the same.
Yeah.
And if you do that, and I mean, if you found out, okay, so say we did the study and William and I both had the same thermal regimens in our home, the two separate variables, and kept everything else the same. And then we saw, okay, the ones at a higher temperature, they were mostly males, and the ones at a lower temperature were even matched or more females or something. Okay, that suggests that the higher temperatures influence sex, and that maybe the Antaresia are TSD, so temperature sex determinant. And so after that, then you can get into more, that's when you probably collaborate with an actual PhD herpetologist, because they can look at the genetics or whatever and figure out maybe more that could be a fundable project potentially. And then you're looking at genetics. You're looking into like common because I'm pretty sure they've worked out how TSD works in turtles or crocodilians. Yeah. And so you could use those same ideas to see if it's the same in pythons. Yeah. And it could be complete, like I said earlier, they could have a complete different heterogametic sex. I think in pythons, at least in ball pythons, I think the male is the homogametic sex. Mm-hmm. And the female is the heterogametic sex. So it's opposite of what we have. And I think it's ZW instead of XY. Mm-hmm. And females are ZW and males are ZZ or WW, one of the two. I think that's how it works. Ben Morrill, come on, save me here. Help us, Ben. Help us, Ben. You're our only hope. Help us, Ben Kenobi. Yeah, Benson did some really cool, had some great ideas on that. And he's doing some wonderful work in regards to reptilian genetics and figuring out how to identify males and females using genetic tests. Mm-hmm. And you would think it would be pretty simple, but it's very difficult. It's almost like looking for a needle in a haystack. So we need to have him come back on and talk about that more and get into some debates about genetic. I was
thinking about in species in the wild, if temperature is a thing that can determine, is there anything to say like, okay, we know as a species that we don't have enough males, so we're going to hatch this clutch out. Like when I have my next clutch of babies, I'm going to incubate them higher because we need more males in the population. Mm-hmm. Is that anamorphizing animals too much? Or,
I don't know. I think...
Do they have any control?
I'm going to have to look into that because I'm pretty sure that paper kind of discussed that idea that maybe the female nests in a different area or like in a cove where it's shady and it's not quite as hot or something like that, you know. It's that's a hard thing to know how much they're cognizant of that. Like if they're like, man, this is a sausage fest. We need to have more females. I need to lay my eggs deeper in the ground where they're not as hot or something like that. Yeah, maybe if the
temperatures don't allow, like for like the turtles, if they don't allow for like a sustainable female population, then they go, like you said, extinct, deeper in the ground, or they
adapt.
Or they find other ways. Animals have done that.
Sure, right? The Earth has changed. Not as maybe at the rate that it's changing now, but the Earth has changed over the, and the sad matter of it is a lot of things go extinct when things change too rapidly, and so we could be facing a major extinction event if things get too warm. But we have seen adaptations, difference or altered migration routes or extent of migration, like they're migrating further north or south where it's cooler, where before they would never be seen, that far north or south, but now they're going further north and south where it's colder.
Year after year, they go back to the same place.
Yeah.
Because sometimes like the adults will die, but then their offspring will do that same migration, even though it's not like mom and dad are flying them with them and showing them this is where you go, right? Yeah. Somehow they know where to go.
We're seeing certain populations getting stranded, like almost like on islands where the lower deserts are too hot, and so they're further and further up the mountains. They're more stable there because they're not being affected by the rising temperatures, and so we're seeing changes in we're seeing localized extinctions based on too hot temperatures in those areas, and it's pushing them into more cooler areas where they aren't historically known to be. And so either you adapt or you perish, and so that's kind of the sad thing of this. And hopefully we see more adaptations rather than perishing, but who knows. So so anyway, that was kind of the thought I had about I really enjoyed William's interview. That was a lot of fun. So interesting. He keeps a really cool array of species, and he's also excited about the Antaresia like me, and so it's always fun to hear a fellow Antaresia nut. They are a little bit more difficult, but I think overall they're very rewarding and easy enough to breed that it makes it a little more fulfilling, even though they're challenging. I like a challenge. I don't know. I think everybody kind of wimps out. Like, I'll just breed ball pythons because they're easy. I don't want to breed Antaresia. They're too scary. So, come on.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think it's refreshing too, where he's looking at the species that he appreciates, and well, why is that? Let's kind of look into it. Like, it's kind of like doing your own detective work, you know, like your own mystery that you're gonna solve.
Yeah. And I think too, as you get more domestication or more generations in captivity, you see these things get easier and easier to start. Like, my Eastern Stimsons pretty much ate first try. Like, really? No real difficulties. The Westerns are still a little more tricky, but not. They're getting better too. Like, I've had better luck with successive generations, getting them to feed without trickery and things like that.
These are the ones that like to eat lizards in the wild, and that's why.
That's the downside.
I've done that when you were out of town once.
That's right. Feeding them tails and
cutting off parts like tails and feet
and legs. Yeah,
that was fun.
You are a saint. I think somebody said that. Maybe it was Lisa Farina or somebody said that. Like, you're married to a saint.
Yeah.
I don't deserve you.
And then one time I was taking care of your stuff, and then I swear your green tree pythons, they just gave me these puppy dog eyes, and they wanted food, and I was feeding something else. So I, of course, obliged and fed them, but I fed them mice or I fed the opposite. Rats, I fed them rats instead of, and you had been working to get them on the other, and then something like that.
I had a green tree that died because I fed it an obese mouse, and it was like a giant mouse, and I don't know why it died.
Did those snakes? They made it though.
They did.
The ones I took care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was like, oh man, I don't want, I don't want that on your, I don't want you
I fed them knowing that thing it's gonna spring at me and I'll probably get bit. But they looked so hungry.
Oh yeah, they're the best of the puppy dog eyes.
Yeah. What are Centralians Bertollet? Those are my favorites.
Oh yeah, I'm excited
hands
for
down,
these
those
guys.
are the most beautiful snake. I love those.
Oh, I don't know. Like, there's some others that I'm really excited about right now. But...
No, I really like those.
Yeah,
I like the head shape. I think they're my favorite.
Yeah, and that red coloration is so beautiful.
Diamond jungle cross, diamond carpet. Cross?
Diamond jungle or
diamond
carpet,
jungle.
Diamond
That's
close.
what I like too.
There's some interesting diamond crosses. Like they really patterns. And I think it's because I don't know. Diamonds they seem to have diverged a little bit before some of the others. They're not just a run of the mill carpet python. Even though they're closely related and listed as the same species, they're probably different enough they could even be classified as a different species. I might be angering people, Scott Eiper, but saying that, but there's some evidence to suggest that, so we'll leave it to the scientists. But as far as I'm concerned, there's some interesting things there. Yeah. Oh, I also ran the idea of in the forthcoming second edition, the more complete carpet python, I've talked about just kind of an epiphany I had about water drainage basins and carpet pythons, like some of the genetic work that had been done, and there's a really nice overlap. And so you'll see a couple figures in the book about the overlap between drainage basins and genetic differences or uniqueness, and how they line up really well with the drainage basins in Australia, which makes a lot of sense. And so I ran that idea by Dr. Shine, and he said, "Oh, yeah, it sounds like a good idea."
I don't know if you can put it in the book until we go there and really map it out in person. Okay. I think we need to go there.
Done. Deal. I like you. So I don't know. There's a lot of fun. I would like to get back there and see. I'm kind of jealous. Those Rob and Eric and some others are going over. I think Keith's going with them, and Matt Minatola's going. So
you got to make that work.
Well, it's too late. I think. I don't know if I could get a reasonably priced plane ticket. And I'm going to Mexico with Shane, so I can't ditch out on him. So we'll get over there soon. I'll probably be over there next year, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. You and I are going to France.
To France. I know I was looking where Joan of Arc is from. It's like almost 2.5 hours away. Oh. Like north from where we'll be. So, I mean.
Yeah. Let's hit the Alps. Let's go up in the Alps.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that'll be cool. I mean, Joan of Arc is cool, but I'd rather see the Alps rather than
our spirits.
Dead girls.
Go where she's from.
Dead girls church or something. Yeah.
Hey.
I know.
She was burned alive, honey.
I know.
She deserves some.
Okay, so I don't want to see some dead girl's ashes. Homage.
They don't have the acid. The ashes. Acid. Apparently, it's been a long day.
Did they use acid to burn her?
They used acid to burn her ass.
Language, young lady.
No sugar. Hey, that stuff was brutal.
I know. Yeah, she was a brave woman.
This got real back.
She was awesome.
1400s.
So anyway, yeah, I agree. I want to get back there. I'm itching.
I also do agree with that statement. And
I as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, if you're interested in doing a cool scientific study, let's get together. Let's get our brain power working together. And
I mean, what better, more positive thing for the reptile community? Instead of being like, well, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know. He says this. Hey, let's
test it. Let's figure it out.
Let's test your idea first. Like, how's that for a nice way to handle things? Yeah. Like, I think you're a little cuckoo, but let's test your idea first.
Yeah. Thanks for being so scientific minded, William. That was a great interview, and you had some really good insights. So I enjoyed that, and got my wheels turning. And I mean, I think we've discussed, like, as a group, kind of carpet python keepers have discussed these kind of things, these ideas, or these ways of working together to test a hypothesis back in the days of the Morelia Pythons forum days, so, but I don't know. I don't know if we ever got our ducks in a row to do it right and to have kind of a cohesive plan. So, the time may be now. Let's try it out. See what we can find. And then, once you get some data, and you can even publish that data and be a co-author on a journal, a journal article for a herpetological journal. So how cool would that be?
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, let's work together, people. and I mean, it comes down a little bit to like laziness on my part. Like, I have started a study where I was going to compare feeding tails with feeding hind legs to different Antaresia. And so I had 2 different groups of hatchlings, and I started, and I was like recording their weights and stuff. And then it just got too much, and I got busy, and I stopped doing it. So, I've started a few of those kind of studies and kind of wimped out. So I think it would help too to have other people that are vested, and that are like, hey man, how's your data collection?
Buddy,
like you work together, and that's kind of how
if someone's waiting, if you got Chuck waiting for you to say, okay, like, if you don't continue to collect data on it, then
you're letting somebody else down, not just you're petering out on the project, but you're letting your friend down. So so I don't know, I thought instead of skipping a week, I'd throw this out there and bring on my beautiful wife to chat with me a little bit. So hopefully it was helpful, and hopefully we can get some fun projects going together. Find somebody with a like interest, and look at some ideas.
I'm gonna go plan a study right now.
There we go.
That's right.
There we go.
Just joking. I'm not. No, I'm gonna.
You've got like your garden stuff. You could look at different soil components, or
I could.
Yeah, I could. You plant half your tomatoes in one type and try a different fertilizer. There's a ton of data on soil and crop science,
And right now,
it's a big field.
I really think what I've kind of started doing is, like, I'm going to rotate, like where I did tomatoes this year, I'm going to switch over and do
a different crop.
But I have ginger mint, and so I'm going to make mint jelly, and then I have apple mint, and then regular, some kind of like a more standard mint. So that's what I'll be doing this weekend.
And you made that pepper jelly last year. That's so good.
Yep,
that reminds us. Let's go get some
Yeah.
Reminds me. I guess it reminds us. Let's go get some cream cheese and eat some pepper
jack. Been an hour since we ate dinner. It's time to eat snacks. Get some Triscuits and some pepper jelly. What were you gonna say we ate the other day though?
I don't know. We ate tonight some of your green tomato salsa or sauce with
I canned green tomatoes, just
Yeah, we have a short growing season. I think we talked about that with Chuck.
So I use that in a chili verde chili. So yeah, I mean, it's just a great flavor. It has a really good texture too, and I think you can tell there's some tomatillos in there too.
And Heidi always includes a lot of meat, so
yeah,
it's good stuff. Was it turkey or was it beef?
I honestly don't know because I made so many freezer meals that day. I don't remember if it was ground turkey.
You knocked it out of the park with the freezer.
But my brother had some really good hamburger meat the other day for a barbecue. Hi guys.
Thanks for being so loud out there, Summer.
Is your movie over?
Thank you. We're recording, sweetie.
Don't be too loud.
Oh my goodness.
Nerds.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. What was I? Oh yeah, when Cody had that Wagyu beef or something.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Wagyu.
And they, how do you say it?
Or I don't know. Wagyu.
Wagyu.
I don't know.
Probably however I don't say it is how I say it, but they had that at Sam's Club, so yeah.
Got you some Wagyu.
So now I'm gonna.
It was just a little bit more, huh? It was ground beef.
It was like $1 more per pound. So I figured, you're spending $18 anyways for 3 pounds of meat. You might as well just
high, or meat prices in general.
Yeah.
Well,
so the struggle is real out there.
I know. Thank you so much for just being willing to get roped in at the last minute. It's fun to have somebody at least to bounce ideas off or to have some back and forth, so thank you for coming on.
I should have said that's a really bad idea. I next time I'm gonna do that just like out of nowhere, just be like, Justin, that's a terrible idea. Just to see what you say. Darn it.
No,
I feel bad if I did that, and then
you're not one for pranks, are you?
I really don't like a prank. I'm not a fan of the prank. No.
I wish I was that good. I love pranks.
I
love a good prank.
I don't. Yeah. And I don't like watching people fall on videos either. Or like when they get hurt.
That's one of my greatest joys. As long as they're not too hurt.
Oh.
As long as they can get up.
Yeah. Anyways, that's tangent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
We'll carry on with your week.
All right. Hopefully Chuck is out of this work hole. Like, they're just killing him out there.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's just doing it,
I feel for him.
Guy.
I mean, my work right now is going into the time where I've worked 8 hours overtime this week.
Been working
and I'm planning on
too.
Working again Friday, extra hours. And,
you're going in for a little surgery, so you got to build up your comp hours.
What is it called?
Your septum.
My deviated septum undeviated.
You won't be a deviant anymore?
I'll be non-deviant.
Okay. That's good.
Lacking of deviation.
And I will get a more restful sleep.
Put things up my nose. Yeah, because I won't snore like a wildebeest. Poor wildebeest. What'd they ever do to anybody?
Well, they look pretty funny. So.
No, they're cool.
Anyhow. All right. Well, thanks to Eric and Owen and the NPR group. What a great group. Check them out. Listen to their latest episode. Well, might not be their latest when you hear this, but listen to the episode with William Philippek. What a cool guy.
Give it a listen.
Yeah. It looks like there's a lot of good content out there.
Oh, yeah. Can we say something about movies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We saw
Go see Nope. It was really good. We saw the
new Nope. Our kids didn't like it.
Kids didn't like it.
They were kind of funny.
It wasn't what we thought.
No.
The acting was
amazing. Was great. Yeah.
Amazing.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was beautifully shot.
Yeah.
It's
a fun idea.
It's hard when it's not what you want it to be, but it was still good.
What you're expecting. But and it wasn't that scary. I didn't think it was too terribly scary, but it was
to be a lot more scary.
Yeah. But it was a fun movie. I enjoyed it. So.
Yep.
At least the old folks liked the Nope.
The old folks were appreciative.
The younger kids were like, that was dumb. That wasn't scary.
That wasn't scary at all.
I think they wanted to be scared more than anything. So
they did. They craved that. It's been a while since there's been a good scary movie.
Yeah. Let's scare them with the cost of house prices. Whoa. You'll never be able to afford a house.
And you lived in your parents'
our basement. All right. Well.
Okay.
Thank you. So now you're are you representing Chuck, or is that just too big of a shoes to fill? Because you got to come up with a clever outro.
An outro?
Yeah. Like you have the last word and you say some clever thing about how we're out, or, like those kind of things. Like Reptile Fight Club is, I think last time he had me say like Reptile Fight Club is ground chuck or ground chucked, chuck grounded. I can't remember.
What does that mean?
I was not. I didn't.
I like
deliver
to say
it well.
like. Okay,
but that's Eric's favorite part. So
there's an old show called Reality Bites, and then when they do that fake like VH1 or like MTV thing, and it's like
the real world.
I'm Audi 5000. Like that one, remember?
Yeah, is that your?
I'm Audi 5000, babe.
Is that your outro?
No, dude, it's the pressure,
Do you
man.
have a better? I know. I should have warned you about this. You don't have to, because Chuck's the king. That's like Eric's favorite part of our podcast.
I'm not going to try to beat you, Chuck, but
all right. Well, so you get a few seconds. I'll say, check out Morelia Python Radio, their website, all their socials, all that good stuff, and we'll have another episode of Reptile Fight Club for you next week. I think we're bringing on some guests, so we got some guests coming on, so. Yeah, that'll be fun.
And the chuckles just keep on coming.
There you go.
Was that a good one?
Oh, that's a good one. Was that your outro?
That was my outro.
Well, you're supposed to wait until I say, thank you for listening to Reptile Fight Club. We'll catch you next week.
When the chuckles will just keep on coming.
Fight Club.